Welcome, sports fans, to another episode of College Football Recap. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing the Spartans game last week against the Buckeyes, and I will preview their game against the Penn State Nittany Lions on Saturday. To lead things off in this segment, I'm going to talk about the Spartans game against the Buckeyes last week. The way the game went at first, and because the Buckeyes were down in personnel, though I wasn't certain at game time how many players the Buckeyes would be short, much less staff members in that, I was a little surprised the Spartans came out the way they did. The Buckeyes played like I would have feared they normally would had they been fully staffed. The Spartans looked terrible. The Buckeyes were outgaining them about 2-1, and for the game they ended up outrushing them something like 332-81. But once it got to be 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, I kind of knew the Buckeyes were going to score 50. I just had that feeling. I didn't know when the last time they'd scored 50 or if they ever had, which is what I thought was the case until I researched that and had the breaking news about it. It was just really shocking to me. And then when the game was out of reach a bit, the Spartans put Peyton Thorne in there, and he completed his first 11 passes and got the Spartans offense going. Without that, the way Rocky Lombardi was going, this was going to be a shutout shellacking, I would say. And the Spartans were really going to be reeling. And as it was, the final score wasn't it was impressive if you were a Buckeyes fan, but I was just really stunned that the Spartans would allow the Buckeyes that many yards rushing. Justin Fields rushed for over 100 yards. And I believe his name is Tremont Sermon. He rushed for over 100 yards as well. Just really shocking. And the way Justin Fields played is the way I would have expected him to play, but Rocky Lombardi was flat as a pancake. And, man, I'll tell you, Peyton Thorne, though, first 11 passes, and then after that, the Buckeyes intercepted his 12th pass. And then from there, he was 5 out of his last 13 for the game. So obviously the Buckeyes made some adjustments and went on from there to win 52-12, which was they still set a lot of highs in the series. Most points they've ever scored in East Lansing, the largest margin of victory, I believe it was. And if you want to know the rest of it, I refer you to the breaking news update I had on that at that time. But I was so impressed. They didn't have Ryan Day. They didn't have a few of their staff members, and I was really concerned about what they were going to do to the Wolverines. Since that game's not being played on Saturday, and I'm going to keep this about the Spartans, just really something what I thought the Wolverines were going to be in store for. But with that having been said, I think the Spartans, under the circumstances, did about as well as they could. I was very disappointed that they had so many penalties, though. They were penalized 10 times for over 100 yards. That's something they could have cleaned up and do need to clean up going forward. They could have had better run containment on the Buckeyes, to be sure, especially Justin Fields, and I was greatly disappointed in that. And those were the two things that were really something. Even if the Spartans had done that, though, with as dominant as the Buckeyes' defense was, the Spartans were not going to win the game, but they could have made it a more competitive effort. And to me, this game just showed the difference between the Buckeyes and I think really the rest of the Big Ten. Now, some people would say, well, what about the Hoosiers? Well, the Hoosiers, this is 1 year. I want to see what they do next year and the next 3 to 5 years going forward, and I might put them in that conversation at that time. But to me, I'm not convinced the Hoosiers aren't one-year wonders for sure. In the next segment, I will preview the Spartans game on Saturday with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Stay tuned to College Football Recap on Ed's Sports Channel.